Without further ado, I do a very quick introduction. I just want to introduce our speakers. We've got Alex LeBreton from Enigma Farms with the brand Twigs. Recent winner of the Cannabis Cup for Best Indica with their Blue Zushi. Next in line, we got Josh Rutledge from Flavour House. Dr. Riley Kirk from the Cannabis Research Coalition. She wears so many hats, I don't know which one to say. Recent author of, I'm going to say, award-winning book, Reefer Wellness, right? So I encourage you to get that out there and give it away. It's an amazing book to help advocates and enthusiasts around learning more about cannabis and sharing that knowledge. Next is Grayson Lichenthaler from Highway Distro, all the way from LA to share some West Coast knowledge around cannabis brands and strains. And last, we've got Sean Stewart from Supercraft. So, and Sean wears many hats too. So I had to ask him just before which affiliation do you want me to talk about? I'm going to throw it to you, Riley. You're going to kickstart us. We tend to take our trends from the U.S. And I thought you could kickstart us and share a little bit about what you're seeing around the next wave of genetics or strains.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So I'm certainly not a geneticist, but we do follow a lot of consumer trends and who's deciding to buy what. And just from the trends that I see a lot, I see the legal market really moves towards a lot of very sweet things, very fruity, almost following like the vape craze, the nicotine vape craze, those same kind of flavors, where the legacy market seems to really be pushing more of the gas and the skunk and those types of aromas that are almost more reminiscent of like what weed was a while ago. Like those flavors still really resonate on their palates, whereas it's almost like the legal market is a bit younger. So people are kind of moving towards these sweeter, more vape-friendly type profiles that might be better for a larger proportion of people and less of like a niche connoisseur type flavor, which like skunk might not be attractive to some people. But people who have the memory of like that really good skunk weed from a while ago are still very much after that aroma. But it can be sometimes difficult to apply to the masses. So you might not get as much bang for your buck if you apply that on the legal market, but on the legacy market, it's still very much sought after.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a very similar trend that we're seeing here. Now, for people who are now, as I know with your book, now people who are really making that connection between a strain and their medicine, how is this related? Because for me, I love my chem, anything with a lot of gas for my knee pain, right? I associate having something like that for my knees and for my insomnia or my pain that's causing my insomnia. Where do you kind of fit in on that with these new strains or new flavors or aromas?
Yeah, that's a really good point where a lot of specifically like chronic pain patients really gravitate towards these like really body high sedating varieties. And there likely is a component of the chemistry there that we have not completely figured out that helps with the pain beyond the THC, beyond the CBD. We only really discovered the molecules that are actually responsible for that skunk smell and for these like really savory aromas, these thiols, these sulfur compounds in the plant. We just discovered them in 2023. Even though we knew the aroma was there, we didn't say, okay, this is the molecule responsible for it. So we're still in the part of research that is understanding, okay, this sulfur containing molecule, what is it actually doing in the body? What receptors is it binding to? And is that helping with the pain relief that people are getting from these specific varieties? Right now we're just like, okay, I smell skunk. I smell that savory. I know my body gravitates towards that for pain, but we're going to link the pharmacology of that sometime in the future start to understand what these sulfur compounds do, and then again be able to apply that to our personalized medicine, and maybe even start to breed some more like daytime forward varieties that have some of that sulfur in them if we need to pain relief during the day too.
Right. Okay, great. Super. Okay. So part of my background is in food and organics in general. In the West Coast, Grayson, we often took food trends, and by the time they were kind of dead in Cali, they were now popular in the East Coast. What's going on the West Coast there?
Yeah, I'd say, especially with West Coast cannabis, not just the recreational market, also leaning into the gray market, you see some brands really control where trends go. So the big ones being Tenko, who did Blue Zushi. They are the originators of that strain. You also see a lot with recently Ronin seeds and their toad venom. They didn't originally get that seed. That's originally from Green Dragon, but they kind of just perfected it. And now you see that little toad package everywhere. And then also another brand is Wizard Trees. They do Zangbanger, Zope, and New Yorker. So a lot of that, I'd say, leans towards the packaging and the marketing aspect. Unfortunately, around 80% of weed sold in California is coming from just the package. So it is a little disheartening on that front, just because, I mean, if you have a package that really gets that eye appeal, that's going to sell before any actually good flower. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how just packaging and marketing are really at the forefront of the California industry.
And in particular, are you seeing some of the foundation of those newer strains? Is there a common genetic lineage there?
Not necessarily a common genetic lineage. Just some like heavier indicas for the most part. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing cohesive between them. Mm-hmm. You're just really seeing the packaging is really what's selling. I mean, these teams have full animation teams that they have full time, so it's really hard to compete with that. Wow. And that type of marketing.
Okay. Well, I think what you're saying, and I'm going to bring in a farmer in here to share a little of his stories. But what I'm hearing is that we may be able to get away with our older strains, but bringing them back, revisiting them, or re-envisioning them, which is one of the biggest challenges we have here in Health Canada. With a regulated system, it makes it very difficult to bring in new genetics. There was processes with phytosanitary certificates and so on. You can bring in some plant material, but it's hard to keep on to the trends. So, following up on what Grayson said, Alex, do you want to share a little bit about your pheno hunting and your choice of how you are trying to keep relevant in a pretty finicky industry?
I think it's really listening to the consumer, paying attention to social media, what people are talking about, what people are smoking, just paying attention to the hype and staying steady and current with the industry. So like anything else, strains evolve, gas packs, skunk packs, they always evolve, but just listening to the consumer and being aware of what's going on. Being a consumer too, you tend to know what sells and what doesn't. You see the trends starting on the West Coast and you try to follow with them as much as you can, as quick as you can, to stay current with the market that's always evolving.
Okay, so and are there specific social media things that you kind of target that gives you good feedback?
You kind of know who you have to follow. You pay attention. The industry speaks. Like people know. If you know, you know. It's just paying attention. Instagram's big for that on my end, and just communication, being a part of the industry.
And would I be pressing you for some IP knowledge there if you were to drop some names that you like to follow, or you find that and as you can say, I'm a pretty shitty moderator. We don't have any rehearsed questions before. So if I put you on the spot, just say pass.
Just like Grayson said, the Tenko, our Blue Zushi, kind of, hand in hand. You pay attention to the market. We chose the Blue Zushi for a good reason. Skunk pack, gas pack, very good feedback. Not the best yield, but a good way to put your brand on the market and get the attention that you want.
Oh, cool. Great.
Back to what he says, marketing and packaging does play a big role. So if you're trying to build a brand, for me, where I'm starting off, I need to bring these hype strains in to gain the attention, gain the trust from the consumer. Because like you said, they'll always look at your packaging first. But as long as the product inside the packaging speaks as loud as the packaging, they'll keep coming back.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Josh, do you want to follow up a little bit on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think we take the complete opposite approach, to be honest with you.
Oh, great.
We hunt through, probably 2,000 or 3,000 seeds a year. We pollinate almost all of it. So for us, it's about selecting things that we just like. It's more about just going down, okay, this one's working, let's see what comes next. And you have two options. Like you're saying, if you're launching a brand out, then you need to come with something that people are already looking for. You know what I mean? Because that helps establish you. But at the same time, if you're going to set a new trend and build something new, you need to come with something different, right? So for us, that's kind of our approach, just output. Just get through as much as we can, find as much good gear as we can, and then get to work on dialing it in and getting it right. But for us, it's just like throw as much at the wall as you can, right, and fail fast, right? Get through it, find as much new gear, and then work from there to kind of hone it in and build something special with it. So our approach is a little different, but I mean we're a genetics company, right? So like I can't chase a trend as much as a genetics company. I need to offer my customers something unique that when they bring it to market, they're not competing against 20 other growers growing the same pack, right? They've got something that we can say, look, we're only going to put this with 5 growers, right? Here's 10 options. What one you like? You can have one of the 5 slots, Okay. So
now I imagine it's the farmers who are making the selections about around yield, aroma, and whatnot. Then do you go to a larger focus group to say, yeah, this is a real winner for this market or that market, or how do you go about that final selection?
We've got a lot of connoisseur smokers in our circle, so we share, just put it out to everybody, and a lot of times the feedback comes back the same. It's like there'll be 1 or 2, and usually we know which one it's going to be. Every now and then it's something different that surprises us. Yeah. But for the most part, we got a pretty good, this one's special, put it out, and like, yeah, those are the ones for sure. But we're smokers, right? We're smoking a lot every day. Like our team smokes a lot, so we're picky in what we select. So it's a little easier that way.
Yeah, but going back to Daniel Cook was speaking earlier from True Terpenes, and I know that some of their work is they really push the nose concept, and I feel, and maybe Sean, I'm going to bring you in on this one, and Riley, you've already kind of mentioned our consumers are driving it, and maybe some of it came from the nicotine vape industry. I think if you're around, and Josh, if you're around a lot of legacy smokers, how are they appreciating some of these new tastes and stuff? So I'll let you think about that and give me some feedback, and I'll throw Sean in there. Sean, you deal a lot with consumers in that retail world. Do you want to share what you're hearing?
Sure. I think there's, going back to everyone's point, there's a couple of different levels here. There is, of course, the legacy level, and all of us know here that connoisseurs tend to gravitate towards genetics in that field. And then, of course, there's the legal aspect, where the reality is, in terms of the craft side and actually things that are very specific to, call it new exotic genetics, is 5% or less of the market, 5% or less, I would say. And so you have the 95%, which also relies on genetics, but in a much different way. So, I see Simply Bare, right. So, outdoor, greenhouse, much larger scale, more, call it commercial viability, still is important on the genetic side. But I think it's far more complex. And of course, like anything, I mean, I look at cannabis like fashion, it all follows a natural progression. So there are the few that know about something at the beginning, and that gets cascaded down to the call it the first adopters, and then that gets cascaded down to the mass appeal. So in the case of cannabis, generally that happens from the legacy, the high end legacy to I guess it kind of seeps into the legal at that point, but that's kind of, I think that's my perspective. It's very complex in terms of genetics. They are important, but to different people at different levels.
Okay, so that's how the market's being folded. But so is there any feedback coming from the consumer too? Is that do you feel like there's a consumer feedback loop?
Yeah, like what I would say is that consumers are for the most part, very specific when they like something, and that's regardless of whether it's like a vape cart that is, hot dog water, or if it's like a FSE, or if it's something that's like a super high end flower, or whatever that might be. I feel like people do gravitate towards things that they generally like. I think in Canada, the marketing part is a little bit different because we don't have the same strings, but ours works slightly differently with data deals and pay to play and things like that, and shelf space. So again, I think it's very complicated. One kind of shout out I do want to make is Law 420, and I'll talk about genetics from this standpoint. Is Gelato 33 is something of a bit of a unicorn for us in our shop. And for me personally, it's probably one of my favorite genetics of all time. So Steph is sitting right there, so I had to say something. But in terms of from our shops, we would outsell any other product 5, 6, 7 to 1 of this one particular product. So it's many different levels.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to jump back to you, Josh, because it does intrigue me, because I kind of wonder how legacy smokers essentially are being able to keep relevant in this incredibly finicky industry. And I was also wondering, when you go through that process of choosing something, do you comment on the effect? Do your smokers comment on the effect as well?
Yeah, like for me personally, I'm a big effects guy. I'm very selective on what I smoke at what time during the day.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff I won't smoke early in the day because I know I've got a busy day and it's just going to flatline me, right? So I do request that from a lot of our, kind of test pool, what the effects were for you. Are they different for me than they were for you? But as a whole, in terms of flavor for that group, I feel like the market in the niche smokers or the connoisseur smokers is definitely a combination of gas and something. Yeah. Right. Because geographically in Canada, it's gas based. You go different places in the world and they want nothing to do with what we like to smoke here. Right. So you have to understand too, that it's geographical. Depending on where you are in the world, you're going to have a different demand for a different product. Right. But here, and me personally, like the gas background is kind of the back end to the flavor. And then it's like, what can we add on there? Can we put some cream on there? Can we put a little peach in there? Can we, right? So then it's like kind of working lines. So when we're doing our hunting, I'm actually actively looking for a peach. I'm actively looking for, a watermelon. I'm looking for specific things that I can then take back and work into. So our high potency matters for us, obviously, as the breeders. So we can work that back into some of our gas lines that are high potency, but then we can come with something different, right? So
are you like collecting pollen or buying pollen, or
no? We breed everything ourselves. Yeah, like I said, we hunt about 3,000 seeds a year ish right now. And our process is different than most. Like I said, we throw a lot at the wall, and we go through a ton, and we pollinate it all too. So when I find my winners, I've already got seed stock of it, right? So we're ready for the next round. As soon as I have a winner, I'm already ready to continue the line down. And it's not for us. We don't work lines for stability or like we're not selling seed stock. I need one unicorn in the hunt, right? So 10 of them can herm, one of them stable, and is the unicorn. I only needed that one. I don't care about the 10 because I'm not selling the seed stock, right? So I have no moral obligation to make sure all the seed stock's stable.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and we make all our own seed stock, and we hunt roughly 75% of the seed stock we hunt is ours. 25% is outside breeders, just so we're always bringing in new flavors and new things from different gardens, but mostly we try to stay on our own gear because that way we can steer where we want to go and keep exclusive stuff, right?
Okay, great. I'm going to jump to you, Grayson, and then jump to you, Riley. You listed off some of the upcoming strains. Is Skunk dead?
It's not dead, but it is not expanding at the moment, at least in the California market. It's kind of been stagnant for quite some time. You're really starting to see some more Landrace sativas start to come back by some higher end growers. So things like Acapulco Gold, see Panama Red, Lemon Thai, a lot of those types of strains. And that's really nice to see. That really helps shake up the market, really throws some great sativa options into the mix. But yeah, overall, Skunk is not really expanding at the moment, which I would love to see it expand. So if anyone wants to get on that, I am a set of lungs that will test.
If you know someone with that roadkill skunk, send them my way. We'll grow it tomorrow.
I have someone with a roadkill skunk.
Yeah, sweet. So I was just in terms of some of the new genetics that you feel that are coming our way. Will they mesh into and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the whole flowering length of some of those. Are they now sort of 9-10 week Acapulco Golds, or are they still?
Yeah, they originally started off as 12-week grows, but they've gotten them down to around 9-10 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's very impressive, but it's also really oversaturating the market in some ways. So that kind of throws a wrench into things even further.
Is it indoor or outdoor?
Indoor for the toad venom, that's going to be all indoor.
The
I'm in the Panama Red and
yeah, those are actually mostly indoor grows as well. The breeder I know that does those is up north. They do a lot of great legacy cuts.
Okay, great. Riley, I was you're from the East Coast. I hate to, give all the credit. I think Sean even alluded that there are, this is not, the trends are coming from the legacy. They're not necessarily only coming from the West. Are you seeing some legacy stuff coming from the East Coast as well?
Yeah, and around New York and New Jersey has an amazing legacy market, and the people there's space for them in the regulated and unregulated market. So I think in that region of the East Coast, absolutely. I'd say Maine also has some amazing legacy growers, even up north. Sometimes hard to find, but if you can find them, awesome people. But yeah, I think the trends in the legacy too, I feel like people who consume legacy cannabis almost have a more dialed in nose sometimes. And kind of what you're talking about with the peach and the watermelon, but with the gas, I feel like that's something that a lot of those longtime smokers can kind of pick up on. But some of that nuance might be lost with newer consumers. So, legacy smokers might just find the product higher quality or more unique or more, attractive at the time, where it might not get that same love on the new market where people haven't been consuming as long and they don't have that whole spectrum of effects that they've experienced.
Cool. That's good to know. As I said, I'm a shitty moderator, so nothing's prepared. They seem to do a great job answering on the spot. So feel free to go up to the mic. You can grab it. You can walk around with the mic and ask any questions. You'll probably have better questions than I have. I'm going to go back to you, Alex. Yeah. What I was going to ask you is, what type of feedback are you getting from your consumers around your products, and how is that shifting? Perhaps what's coming next from Twigs?
We just, with our farm gate, we get to really interact with the consumers directly. So we just really listen to what they're saying. Our consumers like the skunk packs, they like the gas packs, but it's really more so we're consumers too. We kind of know what we like. We can kind of anticipate what they like. A lot of our consumers like something new. So it's just bringing in new genetics, things that work, and staying on top of the industry, making sure we keep the interest there.
What was that called? Farm Gate?
Farm Gate, yeah. So it's a private retail. So in New Brunswick, we have our own store that we can sell direct to consumer.
Oh, okay.
And how do you manage that with, you've got 2 flowering rooms. And you've now had probably 6 or 7 different strains in your 1 year. How do you know which ones to keep bringing back? And I've seen your mother room, and it's small too.
Yeah, we just kind of sit there, Jeremy and I, we smoke, and we figure out what we're growing next. That's how it goes.
And well, how do you know which one to bring back? Like you just it's not coming from the retailer saying we want you to bring back your Mac Daddy or.
It does. We listen to the consumer, and it does play a big role, but it's really just what our team want to grow next and what we think fits best. So where we just won an award for the Blue Zushi, we're going to keep bringing that back, but we want to keep bringing new genetics, and it's often genetics that we're interested in and that we want to smoke.
Right. Okay.
As consumers too.
And Sean, in your world, how do you get, because you work with a lot of different license holders, right? Right? In your maybe
Yes.
other hat, yeah. And he does wear many hats. I'm just not sure. So then, do you give this type of feedback back to the license holders?
Yeah, for sure. I think at least in the realm that we work with and the partners that we have, I think all of us, again, going back to Josh's point, and Alex's point, we're all big smokers anyway. So we kind of know. Going back to like the Gelato 33 thing, like that was just something that everyone knew and everyone pushed because everyone loved it.
I missed that myself.
Okay.
Maybe Tara will stop soon.
Maybe I'll wait.
There we
Okay.
go. There we go.
I was just talking about the Gelato 33 thing. It's like it's kind of like when you know. And as a smoker, it's I guess the complicated part is like getting it from that point to in the shop. Because there's so many steps in between all of those things, and in some cases that actually I would say in most cases that amazing smoke that all of us get to smoke will never ever see the shelf, just for one reason or another. The OCS might not want it, whatever, it might go wholesale internationally, whatever it may be, but the reality is like a lot of the stuff that we smoke that's great will probably never hit the shelves.
Sean, what would you say like the average time is for lifespan of a genetic in your stores on the shelf? Like how long does it have relevance before consumers are less interested in it?
Thanks for that question.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I think it really depends. First and foremost, it depends on like the consistency of the producer and like how long they're actually growing it for. Gelato 33, Law 420. I mean, it's like 5 years. Sorry, Steph, I'm going to keep talking about you, bud. But it's like 5 years, right? And like that is a unicorn. That doesn't happen. But beyond that, it really is a product of the producer. Like we want some more of Kuhn's runts, but he's not doing his runts. So, there's obviously factors like that.
The reason I ask is I have retail stores too. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had consumers come in and be like, man, that weed that you referred me last week was some of the best weed I ever smoked. What else you got? It's like, you told me it's the best weed you smoked all year and you don't want it again. You want something new.
It's like,
right? So that's the consumer mentality.
Yeah.
Right. So,
wow.
So when you look at genetics and you look at nostalgia and you look at some of the stuff, like it moves quick. It's fast. You need to be consistently coming with something different,
Well, I will add to that. Just in terms of like very recently, I will totally agree with that because we did a new project where we launched a whole bunch of new brands and products. And we're definitely feeling that the newness factor is important. And I knew that, but it's like there are certain SKUs like from, and Alex, I know everyone here, all these guys I work with, Alex, they've got things that are now sold out that if we had in stock, we could sell. But yeah, people are definitely, again, going back to the 80% of consumers are looking for the next thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Any questions from the audience? Yeah. So the question was, how sustainable is this finicky consumer demands for the new?
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know. There's actually probably a couple of different answers for that. I think it obviously I mean, if you go backwards and think about how much time it takes to actually grow something and get it to market, that's the first factor. So there's obvious time involved with that. And then I think it's my opinion, most producers know when they have a winner, and generally you gravitate towards the winner as much as you can, and you kind of like, but then at the same time you have to try new things to try to find new winners. So it's kind of like that process of, I got this winner, I got that winner, and now we're utilizing our other space to find other potential winners.
And Josh, I see your green light on, but I'm gonna drag in Dr. Kirk here, and I'm just intrigued, and maybe you've given some thought around, what is it with us? Because it is our medicine for the most part. Why do we need to keep switching up our medicine if we know that it already works? As Josh said, I love that line, Josh. I love what you grew. What do you have next?
Yeah, it's a really great point. And I feel like maybe to the consumer, like they have that experience with a really high quality flower. It makes them feel amazing. It's what they've been looking for. But as humans, we're always like, is there another tier? Is there another tier above? Like, this was really great, but can I take a step up? And once you're introduced to quality weed, you just want to try more quality weed. So, maybe it's not just like the cultivar, but also the producer, the grower, and maybe you haven't tried anything from them. But now that you found them and you say, wow, that first one was amazing, I want to try something else that you have grown because you do a really good job growing this plant. So, and then hopefully like quality weed is a little bit translatable throughout the cultivars, hopefully, if you're, a good grower. So maybe it's a compliment that they just want to keep trying your product specifically because, quality weed is more medicinal than lower quality weed, and it feels different. It's more spiritual. And sometimes it's really hard to find. So I can kind of get that from the consumer perspective, but I also get it from your perspective.
And sorry, I interrupted you, Josh. You had a thought. Yeah, damn, yeah, stoners. Yeah, this fuck. I shouldn't have interrupted. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? And if you wouldn't mind stepping up to the mic, that'd be great. But or the mic, Andrew could hand the mic over. No, he's good. Great, thank you. Okay, sorry. You can yell. Would you kind of paraphrase that question? Whoever wants to answer about how do you find those winners, or how often do you find the winners? Is that?
This is the bane of my existence. I've shelved and thrown out more genetics than I even want to think about because they test 22%. Some of the best weed I've ever smoked in my life. And all I can do, I can breed with it and try to bring that flavor profile along, but like it's painful when you go through that many seeds and that many winners and that many like things perform at every level you would want, and then you get the COA back and it says 22, and it's just like, well, on to the next one, Yeah, it's hard. We run 3,000 seeds. We'll probably find maybe 10 keepers out of 3,000, right? Something like that in a season. Yeah.
Thank you. But please join me in thanking Alex, Josh, Riley, Grayson, and Sean